welcome to Grinding Meaning. I am the expert layman. Let me get this a little bit closer. Road Rage, Scapegoats, and Projection. I'm going to be referencing a lot of Rocket League here. I love this game. But I'm going to do some game stuff first. Maybe. Okay. Server's being a little weird. Sorry. Things go sideways so quickly in this game, and it's like every little mistake just costs you. I guess the road rage thing. I guess I can start there. I actually have something like an outline. So there's this guy I work with. He is about as autistic as you can be and still, you know, be functional. It's like, it doesn't really get in the way of his job a whole lot, but he doesn't like the eye contact. He gives people freakishly wide berths, you know, just, you know, obviously doesn't want to risk any kind of physical contact. Nice enough guy. I only bring him up because a while ago, I don't know how long ago, I was leaving work. Let me check my stream before I get rolling here. Make sure. Hey, there's the notification for my stream. Okay, seems to be working. Okay. One day when I was leaving work, this guy just like comes out 2 cars behind me, barrels up, and I'm in the turn right lane with not that much far to go to the intersection. He just runs right in front of me and cuts me off and makes his turn, and I was ready to get just livid because like that's like my weakness. It's been my weakness for a long time. That's been my shame, is that people can get under my skin behind the wheel when, you know, people are being assholes on the road. And I was ready to get all keyed up, and then I realized who it was, and it's like, oh, it's the dude. And suddenly it just made sense, like, oh, this guy never does not get to express any kind of aggression at work. It's not like he's like targeted or, you know, shit on a lot or anything, but like, you know, he gets out of there and he has, you know, the limited anonymity offered by his vehicle. This guy's a freaking asshole. And you know what? More power to him. And that's what I thought in the moment, too. I was already get ticked off. I'm like, you know what? You have it, buddy. You don't get too many of these. You're trying to balance your shit. I just couldn't be offended by it. Which was kind of like started me down a path of like, well, that's interesting. How come sometimes, you know, it'll bother me and other times it won't? And I said, well, okay, it's not a raptor. And it has to do with like the motivation of the person or the situation the person was in or something. The context matters. I hate these things. Oh, sure. You know what? Oh, shoot. I forgot he was not on passive anymore. That is so cool. Looks like my stream's working good today. I'm not sure what caused that mess the other day. I have this fear that I had accidentally started, like, recording with Relive. And, like, it was, like, stealing my encoder resources. I don't know. I guess I'm not getting off there. Well, there's some context in which somebody can't get under my skin, well, maybe I can kind of like nurture those contacts, like figure out how to kind of capture that lightning in a bottle and repeat it in some fashion. Because for a while now, for years now, like I can be in the middle of two people basically having a shouting match. That's about me at work. And, you know, my heart rate doesn't even go up. It's just like in-person social stuff just doesn't really... Because I can see what their motivations are, and I know when someone's just attacking because they're insecure or weak and stuff, and it can't get under my... There aren't too many instances where when I can see what the other person is actually going through, that it still bothers me what they're doing. But something about being in the car still worked. And in fact, I don't like going up to the, you know, I don't live that far from Chicago. And I hate going up the burbs because people are just such asshole drivers up there. And it brings out this part of me, or brought out this part of me that I was just not really very proud of. So, you know, until you can get something under wraps, sometimes it's just better to avoid the thing, you know. Sometimes the only victory you can claim is to deny your demon battle. But at some point, you gotta confront it again, you know, like Warrior's Journey, Star Wars, and whatnot. I suppose I could gather some resources while I'm here. So I got fascinated with road rage videos. You know, learn about other people or learn about yourself. And just see all the different ways that it manifested. Now, that was a thing I was really interested in, I don't know, a couple of years ago. I've been paying a lot more attention recently because all the stuff I'm doing in Rocket League is like, it's almost exactly the same behavior when people are toxic in Rocket League as it is when people get road ragey. It's almost exactly the same thing. It's just, you know, since the environments are so similar, it manifests in very similar ways. You know, in different contexts, things, you know, manifest in different ways. I'm gonna go back to my outline. Okay, the projection thing, or scapegoats. I think I talked about this in another video, and some of what I'm talking about here will reference some stuff I talked about in, I think it was Grinding Meaning 5, Micro Wins and Macro Losers. About that'll get into like a sort of a different area of the same thing. I don't know. The scapegoat thing. Excuse me. This is my personal thing, and I'm sure I'm not original with it, but like this is my understanding, is that, why do you keep running away? That there's a part of you that basically keeps a record of like everything you do and all your interactions, and knows basically a great deal more than you do. It's not really conscious, it's more like a recording. But you will, like, subconsciously compare whatever the best thing a good person would have done in that situation, and you'll compare it with what you did. And you can conceive of, like, really, you know, a lot. You can always conceive of doing better than you actually do. That's just, you know, it'd be weird if that wasn't the case. Unfortunately, this creates a state of affairs to where you're just constantly aware of what a piece of crap you are, because you're always going to fall short of what could have been. And you kind of needed a way of coping with this, and you know, religion helps. Religion can fulfill that role, but you can also find your own way. But some ways are more healthy than others, and some get so unhealthy that they're basically toxic. One way, and this is the biblical reference, is to cast your sin onto someone or something else. and then like get rid of it or kill it, or basically, that's how you get rid of it. Like you can't. Like there's something deep in us now. It seems like a religious concept, but it seems on the surface it's a religious concept. But I think religion just tacked on to this, I don't know, psychological nature thing that we have of you can't get rid of, and I keep using the word sin, but it's just as simple. Just think of I'll define sin as the gap between what you probably should have done and what you actually did. And it's defined by you, not by any other system. Like you had this idea of what, an ethical way of conducting yourself is. And obviously you're going to fall short of it, all the time. Like I said, it'd be weird if you didn't, but it creates this commodity called sin, and you got to have a way of dealing with this, think of it like toxins in your system, you got to get it out somehow. And there are healthy ways to get it out and unhealthy ways to get it out. One of the unhealthy ways is to find someone to cast as the role of villain, and then you get to play vigilante, and you're really just like punishing yourself, but you don't quite have the maturity to own your shit. So you're subconsciously putting it onto other people and then attacking them. Like, there's something I've referenced in Rocket League called chaser baiting. Make sure I didn't skip anything. Which is kind of like, you could also look at it like villain hunting. Like, some people just, and I think it's partially biological. I think if you're more disagreeable, you're more inclined to go down this road because, we used to need like enforcers that kept the group thing together. And, it used to be really hard to keep people all on the same page. So you needed these people to basically be like, keep everybody in line. And they had this aggression they had to get out, which is good because a lot of heads needed to be knocked together. And that worked really well until you don't have enough people doing bad things and they have to go kind of make things up to take care of, to get rid of, their, what do you call it, to detox their sin. And that's essentially, what happens in Rocket League a lot. You don't get the guy who's like, wow, please don't be that way. That's really awful. It's always like, oh my God, you're so horrible. I have to show your horribleness isn't obvious enough. I have to kind of massage it a little bit and make you look even worse. So they want to find their villain, but the villain, like, they're like mirror images of each other. And that's what you see in the road rage videos a lot. There's no especially the cameras that go out, like, they always cut off, not always, but almost always cut off like the lead up, and it always starts with, whoa, I was just going down the road and this guy comes up and cuts me off. Don't know why he was doing that. It's like, you're full of shit. There was a whole bunch of back and forth leading up to that before you got to that point. But you need to enforce the narrative, where you were just minding your own business and then this guy did this thing and now, well, I just gotta show him, and it's the same thing around, like right in that moment. You can't tell whether I'm talking about Rocket League or people on the road because it's essentially the same thing. It's people who, there's a lot of things going on here. I don't want to make it sound like there's only one thing, but there's two main things I'm going to talk about here. And one is people trying to get rid of that sin. And the other is most of these people occupy the bottom rungs of whatever social hierarchies they engage with. And in an attempt to, like, as long as you're not at the bottom, it's not that bad. Just this idea that you're at the bottom or you don't know where you're at is what makes insecure people even more insecure, and they need to find counterparts. And then they have a battle over who's king loser, And that's what the road ragers and that's what the toxic players are trying to draw you into. They are trying to coax you into the role they need you to play so they can deal with their internal stuff externally. Yeah, I had this image of like two cultists trying to trying to convince the other to be the sacrifice. You know, like, I really, really need you to lay on this altar. No, dude, I really need you to lay on this altar. It's like, I got some sin to get. No, I do too. And it's kind of a funny way of looking at two people raging on each other, either on the road or in Rocket League. So one way to feel like you've pulled a win is to basically beat another loser. And there aren't that many losers out there, so they're constantly trying to fish the behavior out of people, which is why people will, as I think I said this in another video, they will instead of just clearing the ball out from in front of their goal, which is like what you do, preferably to the sides, they'll just start slow dribbling it out of there, just like on the top of their car. They're literally teeing the ball up for the other team. And then when one of their teammates comes in and is like, oh, fuck that, and just tries to knock the ball out, they're like, in my head, I have the original Ghostbusters when they actually get their first call, and Janine, like, hits, you know, right before she hits the big buzzer button, she's like, we got one! That's what I feel like when a rager finds someone that, like, you know, he slow dribbles across the ball in front of the goal, and then his teammate, like, knocks it clear, and it's like, oh my god, why are you ball chasing? And it's like, okay, now we're off to the races. And a lot of these guys are, from that point forward, capable of one-sided escalation. The other person doesn't really even have to engage anymore. They'll play out the drama all on their own. You know, sorry I'm not doing anything in-game. It's requiring a little bit more of my attention than I thought it would. There's no point in that, a white one. Why would you put a white one up here? It's like level 5. It's probably got some, like, linen clothes. Well, it's raining, and it didn't seem to screw up my stream. That's a good sign. Yeah. Get that crap out of here. Why would you put that in a higher level area, anyway? Well, I killed an alpha raptor earlier. It took about 100 arrows. I'd make a video out of it, but it was really boring. For some reason, he was, like, chowing down on something he killed. But, like, it was taking him a really long time to finish his meal. And I was out at, like, maximum range. And somehow I was taking such a small chunk of his health, I guess. It wasn't worth his attention to stop eating until he was actually seriously injured. And then he came after me. Check my outline again. Yeah, you could call it the serotonin economy of, like, people trying to feel like they're not at the bottom. How long has my stream been going? Sorry, just want to check a couple of things. I'm just getting through this faster than I thought I would. I figured I tend to get sidetracked very easily. I think one thing that's important to understand is when you call someone a rage junkie, that's a real thing. Like to say, well, you know, it's not like, you know, they're taking a real drug or whatever, but your brain chemistry, you have a pharmaceutical factory in the middle of your head, and it creates all kinds of happy and unhappy chemicals. Okay? And the reason for a lot of this behavior is an addiction to a particular brain state. And you know all the songs where, you know, it's like it's better to feel pain than nothing at all. Like, it's practically a trope. Feeling outrage and then feeling justified in expressing more hostility than you normally would feels meaningful. It feels in the moment like you're doing something. Unfortunately, it's like you often catch yourself in the collateral damage of the situation. Like, there's I'm going to do a first on grinding meeting. At the end of the stream, I'm going to play a video. Part of a video. And it just makes you want to cry for this person. Because unlike a lot of the videos, you actually get to see like the lead up, which there isn't any because, you know, they basically come together as a ramp drops, you know, as a ramp brings them together. And you have like if you're on the bus and there's like a person having a little bit of trouble like standing up straight, or they don't seem to be able to maintain a straight course, like you give that person a wide berth. You're like, you just kind of instinctively know, like, probably want to stay away from this one, and probably best not to engage with them unless you have to. And that's the normal way of dealing with, like, someone who's not quite right in person. And that's the way most people will deal with someone who appears to be, like, a drunk, distracted, probably inexperienced driver. You recognize the behavior. Like, this guy's driving, like, yeah, he cuts her off. He cuts her off because he's not... He doesn't realize to check. And you can kind of see, like, he ends up cutting somebody else off and then kind of, like, adjusts, but, like, he's not... Guys don't typically... Like, learning to... You got to become comfortable in an environment before you can start expressing hostility in it. So, like, new guys that are driving typically won't be that hostile. Like, you kind of have to, like, learn how to do that from, like, other assholes. But you can kind of tell from this driver that he's not, like, trying to be an asshole to people necessarily. Probably most likely just inexperienced. But, like, for her, it's like, it's go time, you know, and that's the other weird thing about the video. Like, when you come to, like, overt, like, displays of hostility, like, that's male country. That's, like, 10 to 1, 20 to 1, you know, males. But for the same reason, my autistic friend at work is very hostile in the car. I think is the same reason why when you get behind the wheel, the ratio goes down to, like, 10 to 1, 5 to 1, 4 to 1. Like, there's a lot more women that will get into it on the road. And I think it's, you know, like, for the reason I said before. But it is weird that it's a woman. But it's like, you can, like, see her, like, you know, it's almost like one of those war films, like, this is what we do, boys, you know, like, it's go time. And then rather than, like, keeping, like, seeing that there's something not quite right about that car or that driver, and, like, trying to build up a cushion between you and them, she, like, seeks him out and then reads, based on, you know, the way he's driven so far, how to put herself in a position where she'll get cut off again, so that she can shoulder pass him, cut him off, brake check him so hard she comes to a complete stop with her kid still in a diaper in the car. And I think this is kind of the lesson of, like, you know, like, people don't seem that interested in, like, how toxic behaviors manifest in Rocket League, or, you know, why people rage on the road. And it's kind of the same way people treated, like, psychopaths. Like, well, they're just crazy. Of course they're crazy. You have to be crazy if you already kill all these people. Duh. It's like, well, you know, there's more to it than that. And if we understand the more to it, maybe fewer people have to die. Or in the case of road rage and Rocket League, maybe more people can have a positive experience just by excluding those people. And if you can get... And that's the other thing about Rocket League. Like, I used to play basketball, like, a lot. Like, in high school. Like, after school until it got dark, you know, through the summer, like, we'd play on any court, you know. We had about, I don't know, a couple dozen courts, and we would just cycle through them, and saw people there, we'd go play. Didn't care who was there. I have not been watching the chat. God, I hope I didn't screw that up. Oh, no, I have. Okay, cool. And the rules were essentially, there was a set of rules for pickup games on basketball courts. And if you played like someone in Rocket League, you just be watching other people play in a very short order. nobody would want you in there because, it's not their responsibility to tell you, hey, you're being a ball hog and you're making the game less fun for other people. They'll just stop playing with you, and you can figure out why that's happening, or you cannot. But without that feedback, you don't see the improvement in behavior. So when I model, Rocket League, I feel like I have this kind of baseline, more or less objective, like, observation of how these negotiations work. And sports was the first area where, like, I could, like, it was it was a context where I could, like, come into physical contact with other people, and it was okay. Like, it was weird, but, like, I got used to it quickly because, competitive spirit overrode the not wanting to be touched thing. So, like, there's a part of me that knew this was important for my development, so I played them. I wasn't even that good. But, so, since I didn't understand social stuff, I paid a lot of attention to, like, the rules. And it's kind of funny, like, me and my friend in high school were in South Carolina, far, far from Chicago. And I was going to, like, hey, we're going to play some basketball. Now, it's mostly, I don't know if it's mostly, but there's a lot of black people down there, a lot more than up here. And we go to a court and it's all black people. He's like, well, I don't know. And I said, oh, come on, dude. That's cool. Like, everybody down here is super cool. And to be fair to him, his entire family was pretty freaking racist, and he'd had some bad experiences. So the fact that I got him on the court at all should speak volumes for him. At the end, he's just like, oh my God, those guys were so cool. I had so much fun. It's like, wow, black people in South Carolina are so much cooler than the ones up in Illinois. It's like, no, that's not why. He's like, what? It's like, the white people are assholes too. You've just gotten used to them. But the rules of the court were the same, is kind of the point of why I bring this up. And using that baseline to compare against other things, I don't know, gives me a special kind of lens. But I'm not actually doing anything. I think I hit, let me check my... Yeah, I got through everything I want to get through. Yeah, I'm going to play that video with a closeout here. Because hopefully you'll see what I've been talking about, and if not, maybe I'm just a crazy person. But if I'm a crazy person who can accurately model the behavior of other crazy people, I still have value. Well, thank you all for joining me. I am the Expert Layman. Peace out.
No. I know, we'll change you, I promise.
Oh, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead.
Break. Look. You. Okay, that's it. You. Bam, 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 bam. Call them right now. Call them. What's your fucking problem? No, you. Go.